I don't know about you mamas, there are times in my household where my children are now 3 and 6, and they now fight a lot. It reminds me of me and my brothers when we were younger. We would chase each other around until an adult came and started to scream and yell at us and shame us or put the fear of God into us. Then our toys would get taken away, or we'd get like a chinelas thrown at us. When I see this happening, I go pull back, because the Neeta that's programmed to do what she grew up learning is to yell and scream or shame one. But that's not right? My higher self knows that. But in the moment, my higher self, there was all of that out the window. And I know you all do too, which is why it is a human moment. And so how could we regulate our nervous system when things seem to be chaotic? Today, we are braving your relationship with your kids, with your emotions, your relationship to, wow, this is a busy season of life, and am I going to lose my SHIT in front of my children? So listen up closely. Hey loves, do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are tuning into this. It helps grow the show more than you know. Thank you so much again, and enjoy. Hey there, loves. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your destination, your oasis to be all things just a little bit more brave in your actions, in your relationships, and in your life. And today we are braving your relationship with your kids. We're braving your relationship with your emotions, your relationship to, wow, this is a busy season of life, and am I going to lose my SHIT in front of my children? Hopefully they are not watching this right now. And in order to ground us, in order to maybe even spark the dialogue for this episode today, that's now an affirmation card. Here's your affirmation. I will sometimes feel heavy and disappointed. I welcome the chaos. I'm allowed to have bad days. I embrace the suck. Let me ask you this. Why are we so afraid of bad days? Why are we so afraid of the chaotic? And I'm doing something really special this month because I really want to try, but I should probably even remove the word try. I am going to savor the slow, because I know what happens when we get into the last final quarter of the year. There's all of these deadlines, there's all of these to-dos, there's all of these things, there's all of these amazing social events. Mamas, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You want to hang out with everyone because we're back from the summer and all things are go. And then we have all of the holidays, and then it just keeps going on and on and on until then we bust. Or then we hit a break, or then we have some sort of a health challenge, or we get sick. And while this month is, in my opinion, self-care month, because it's not only Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I am survivor of DV, and any of you watching, I see you as well. And this is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I want to give us back the tools to not only help you prioritize your self-care, because in order for us to prioritize our self-care, it starts with, the emotions that we're feeding our bodies. It's the input that we are actually taking in, because there is a lot of world maneuvers happening. You turn on the TV, there's a lot of things that will definitely reduce or increase your anxiety, reduce your ability to maybe even regulate your emotions, seeing something on social media that can totally disrupt your day. And if you are an empath like I am, I need to take some time to actually process what I just saw, what I just consumed. And if you've watched Dr. Kimberly Snyder, who was on the Brave Table not too long ago, I will link her episode in the show notes. She talked about if we expose ourselves to bad media or negative things on the internet, and sometimes it's hard, or news, or anything that is just negative, it affects our immune system for 6 hours after. And she talks about the study in which this is from, and she goes into the science, and really she's teaching us how to drop back into our hearts. Now, that's all fine and great, but can we allow space to even talk about what we're actually feeling, what we're emoting. And so I have a couple of questions as we kind of dive into this episode, which I thought were really poignant for you navigating this with your families and in this season of life, wherever you are at, the hustle, the go, go, go. If you are in your car listening to this, if you are walking while listening to this, if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead. Here's your hands. Even if you're driving, you could take one hand and put it on your heart. And just take the deepest breath you've taken all day. And that audible sigh just brings us back into our bodies, where we're not just ruminating the things to do. We're not just consuming because this is another podcast to consume. I know you all love me, and I love seeing and hearing from you every single week, but this is for you. This is for you, and I'm saying this because it's also for me as we navigate these waters of this busy end of year season. So, questions for you. Do you actually feel safe to express your frustrations and feelings? Secondly, do you feel safe to allow yourself to fully be seen and witnessed? Do you try to conceal your feelings from your children in order to paint a picture that everything is okay and perfect? Now, let's take the first question. Do you feel safe to express your frustrations and feelings? So do you think it's okay to emote and express fully? All right, loves. I see you. 98% of you watching right now are not subscribed, and that's totally cool, and I so appreciate it. But if you're enjoying this episode, if this is dropping valuable content for you, then why not join our fam? By subscribing, you'll never miss a beat, especially on the amazing tips, advice, and insights that we have on our incredible guests from around the world. Plus, you'll get a chance to win some incredible prizes. And it's absolutely free. It keeps us connected to everything that we're doing and helps us get even more and more incredible guests. And it would mean the world to me if you could just hit the subscribe button. And I promise to make you even more valuable content. Now, if you've been with me a while, if you've gotten my book, That Suck Now What, if you've gotten these cards, That Suck Now What affirmation and action cards, you can actually get these from my website. It's thatsucknowwhat.com. It actually comes in a bundle with our conversation cards and our affirmation cards. These are it. And this gives you an action step on the other side. And it's been so healing for so many families and friend groups and girlfriend groups. And what I want to say about this is a lot of what we are just going through in the motions, our every single day, it's informed by how we grew up. What was the household that we grew up in? Were you okay with people yelling and screaming in your house? And was that like normal for you? Because if it was, then maybe perhaps it's okay that your kids are shouting and screaming and yelling, and maybe you don't have an issue with that. Maybe you shout and scream and you're fully expressing onto other people, but you don't know how to do it in a safe way where it's not hurting other people, where it's not actually geared at your children or your spouse or your friends or your family members or the elders. Or were you in a household that penalized you for yelling, that you were locked up in your room, you were sent, go to your room because you raised your voice? They didn't even have a conversation. It wasn't even a negotiable. If you were yelling out of turn or speaking your truth at the dinner table, you were sent to your room. You couldn't even finish your food. Does that sound familiar? So, or if there was any version of that in between, this kind of informs the way then how our inner child, the younger version of ourselves, how they were treated. And then now, fast forward to how we are passing this baton towards reactions, towards any sensory things that are kind of outside of our control. Somebody yelling at you, somebody asking or nagging or wanting you, because as a mama, that's just kind of the name of the game, right? Or I would say this for any boss babe queen who is in charge of a lot of people. There's people asking for you at your every move. Are you going to scream and yell at them? Probably not. Or maybe you are, and maybe that's your leadership style. But again, it goes back. It goes all the way back to what were we exposed to when we were younger. And I don't know about you, I feel like we knew what we knew back then. We're not trying to shame anybody. We're not trying to guilt anybody. But now, what we know now, we can actually take control of. We can actually maybe begin to heal. We can actually have compassion for that younger version of ourselves who just didn't know better. And we can take a pause and note, okay, how am I feeling in my body at this moment? Because it's so easy to push. It's so easy to add another to-do task on your to-do list. But when can we actually sit back and just savor? Savor the moment. Savor the discomfort. Savor the fact that I will sometimes feel heavy and disappointed. I welcome the chaos. And I don't know about you mamas, there are times in my household where my children are now 3 and 5, actually 6. He just turned 6, my oldest. And they now fight a lot. It reminds me of me and my brothers when we were younger. We would go around, chase each other around until somebody came, an adult came and started to scream and yell at us and shame us and or put the fear of God into us or separate us. And then we would get in trouble and our toys would get taken away, etc., etc. Or we'd get like a chinelas thrown at us. That's like the Filipino slipper or something along those lines. And yes, it was funny. So I now have to sit back and take a moment and really in the moment, and this is what's hardest, in the moment you are asked to, okay, I can react right now. So this is where it takes a moment. And I know this is the hardest thing because it's so human for us to react. When I see this happening, I go pull back and it takes me a second because the Neeta that's programmed to do what she grew up learning is to yell and scream and separate the kids and or shame one, and because the oldest one knows better, then the youngest one gets off, she gets off the hook, but that's not right? Like my higher self knows that, but in the moment, my higher self, there was all of that out the window, and I know you all do too, which is why it is a human moment. We shouldn't penalize ourselves. However, we know this tool now, and this is a tool that I'm going to give you, so listen up closely. Now, we can zoom out, just like you are watching a movie, and you see this happening in your house, and you take a moment, it might be 2 seconds, 3 seconds, but you witness what's going on. You see the chaos. You welcome the chaos. You don't react. You put your hand over your heart, you breathe. And then you say, okay, what would my highest self do in this moment? And now option number 1 is they sort it out because it's their sibling squabble. And you're giving them the tools to manage conflict and to take care of themselves, especially if they were on a playground. How would they solve conflict? So that is number 1. Number 2, well, you go in there and you stop the commotion and you say something like, wait, what's going on here? What do I hear? And maybe break it up and, let's part for snack time. But the key is not what the solution is in that moment. The key is breaking that pattern. It is called a pattern interrupt, where we are breaking the pattern of our old ways to form new neural pathways in our brain so that we are not doing what our forefathers, our grandparents did to our parents, and our parents did to us. We are not doing all of that. We are undoing, we are unlearning. That is called a pattern interruption. And yes, in those moments, because then, I don't know about you, but I used to get so dysregulated. And then I go back to my own childhood of me getting reprimanded because I was the oldest. I was the oldest. My dad was like, Neeta, you know better. They're your younger brothers. Well, geez, One of my brothers just kicked me in the face, and the other one, took the toy that I was playing with. That's not fair. But guess what? Because the oldest knows better, she would always get in trouble. Neither you know better. You're the oldest. You're the good girl. Well, shit. Why is it always on me? Right? And so and this is going to be very, some of you probably grew up getting away with it all, but now you see the dynamic in your own kids and you feel bad for the oldest because it is true. They are supposed to know better, right? But the thing is that really the truth? Can it be a different way of parenting? Can it be a different way of reparenting ourselves? And this is so huge because if you are like me, where these sibling squabbles or any sort of things will dysregulate you in the moment, and then of course, then you lose your patience, you lose your SHIT on your children, and then you go into the same dynamics and patterns that you are so wanting to break. This is the hard part. And so often we struggle with this because we do want to be the good parent. We're watching all the things that we see on TikTok and Instagram. We know better. We're reading the books. We're watching the podcasts. It still happens. You're not a bad parent. You're not a bad mama. You're not. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. I'm allowed to have bad days. Here's what it says on the card. I'm allowed to have bad days. You are allowed to have bad days, just like your kid is having a bad day. Does that mean he's a bad person? No. Does that mean your child is a bad kid? No. He's just having a bad day. He's just having a bad moment. So why are we going to penalize them and put them in the other room, separate their sibling, send them off from the dinner table? Why are we going to do that? Can we choose different? Can we choose better? This is a constant conversation in our house because we have littles. And we also have to help with their brain function. Now, their prefrontal cortex, this prefrontal cortex here, responsible for making logical decisions, is not formed until they get much older. But we're wanting them to somehow make logical decisions when they're 3 and 5. Probably not, right? Or under 10. Probably not. Or even older than that. Probably not, right? And so how could we regulate our nervous system when things seem to be chaotic? So the first thing is that we can actually catch ourselves. And catching ourselves is putting your hand over your heart. And this is the fastest way to catch yourself. And you can just take in 3 rounds of breath. And you can model it. And I've done this in sibling squabbles. And one of the things that I have actually shared with my kids is that we have 2 brains, our primal brain and our logical brain, our top brain and our bottom brain. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see my hand is opened up. And so when our brain is closed like a fist, we get really upset and we start yelling and we get angry. And our hand even starts to shake because it looks like a fist if you're watching this on YouTube. And I've showed this to both of my kids. And so I said, well, in order to stop getting angry, what should we do? And so then they put their hand, because now they know, well, they say, Mama, we have to feel our heart. Well, where's our heart? And so they take their hand, they put their hand over their heart. By the way, you can use this with your kids or even yourself if you get into a situation. And so feel your heart. Okay, Mama, now what? Now what? Okay, go ahead and breathe. Breathe until your hand unclenches and opens up. Oh, you see it opening? Yes. Oh, wow, it's opening up like a balloon. And you see them both looking at their hands opening up. And then when it's opened up like a high five, then I'm like, wow, we can give each other high fives. And are we angry anymore? No. Did we allow ourselves to feel that, but change that emotion? Yes. And so this has been such a great tool for our house because it's not only visual, but it gives them something to do. It also gives us as adults something to do. And it takes 5 seconds, but it also is a reminder for us to completely breathe. And breathe into our belly, breathe into our gut, breathe into so that we could actually regulate our nervous system. So if you're driving, close your fist, clench your fist, keep clenching it. And to feel all of the anger, like you're gonna like punch somebody or someone just slighted you at the office, someone didn't acknowledge you, you felt really hurt, somebody disobeyed you or disrespected you. And now go ahead and put your other hand over your heart and breathe it in 5 times and slowly, slowly, slowly open up your hand. And I know it's the simplest thing, but I guarantee you this is a hack that works for littles. Try it in your family and let me know in the comments below, or send me a DM at Neeta Bhushan at the Brave Table. Let me know how that has been for you. So this is one way of really allowing yourself to regulate your nervous system. The other thing that I really love, and we have a calming corner in parts of our home. It's in our playroom, and the kids know that if they are, now they do this thing where they pout because they don't get their way. And so we acknowledge their feelings. Okay, so that's the first thing, is we have to acknowledge. And for those of you who have been avid listeners of the Brave Table, you already have That Suck Now What as the book. I share a ton of these tips for those of you who are newer to the Brave Table or somebody sent you here. I actually have a ton of these rituals and tools that you can actually use from my book, That Sucked Now What, and you can get it at thatsuckednowwhat.com. I'll actually link it also in the show notes. And one of the things that we have is our calming corner. And in our calming corner, we also have our rage room. And so our calming corner is, we have stuffies in there and things that we can hug and just really get that oxytocin, but from just hugging stuffies if we're feeling sad or frustrated or mad. I also have coloring books, coloring pencils, and as well as balls that they can like throw, and they're kind of these Nerf balls that they could throw around in their room. And I have a bunch of pillows, and I love the pillows because sometimes they are really angry and we need to really move that anger. And the best way to do it is to have a pillow fight. And there are times I have a 3-nager at home. She is fully in her 3s and I love her, and she is fully feeling all of her emotions at this point. And the emotions are real. And so I want to give her a way for channeling that energy, because there are times where she is really in her fullness, in her meltdown for about 20 minutes. Sometimes it's nightly. And it can help you and make you, yes, lose your stuff at times. And so we have this rage room where now we don't talk to her about this when she is also in her rage. We let her feel. But when she's actually calm, like the next day or 2 days later, I'll say, okay, Isla, what happened the other day? Were you feeling sad? Were you feeling mad? Were you feeling angry? Yes, Bia took my toy, which is usually something along that line, or I wanted to play with his Ninja Turtle. And how did that make you feel? Well, that made me feel angry. Okay. Well, what would you want to do with that anger? Because it's an emotion. What do we do with our emotions? Well, and now she knows to say we move it. Okay, well, how would you move it? Here's a pillow. And so then she'll, she's still little, so she can't really pick up some of our pillows, but we have little kid pillows, and she'll throw that around, or she'll throw the Nerf balls around, and then she's giggling, and then she's laughing. So I've already imprinted that emotion in her that, okay, this can be fun, and we can transmute that energy from rage to laughter. Same thing when we are able to fully express. Now, some of you write to me in the DMs, well, rage or anger were never allowed in my house. If I got angry, I would get sent to my room. If I yelled and screamed, I got sent to my room. Well, now in our little rage room, we have a rage ritual. And I know I've shared this in other places. I feel like I've also shared this here on the Brave Table, but I also have a rage playlist. And one of the songs in my rage playlist on Spotify is Boots and Cats, and it's called The Dinosaur Dance, and we stomp like a dinosaur. And so we stomp like a dinosaur, we growl like a dinosaur, we scream like a dinosaur, and it's okay to allow them to scream. Now, if that triggers your nervous system, because I know that even in our house, it took my husband a long time to be okay with people screaming, because his attunement in his nervous system was not primed for it, because screaming was never allowed in their Indian household and very prim and proper Rajasthani household. You would not scream. They would think you were crazy, and it was not okay. So if you're coming from these cultural backgrounds where it is absolutely not okay to allow yourself to fully emote and express, then take the pillow and scream into the pillow. Because I guarantee when you are opening up your throat chakra, which in Vedic terminology, this is the portal of expression. It's one of the reasons why if we are not expressed, we can get sore throat, we can get sick a lot here, if we're not able to have the confidence to speak our truth, or if we feel like we're gonna be judged, if we were told when we were younger, oh, you're not supposed to do that, girls are supposed to be ladylike, you're not supposed to scream, that's not allowed, or only speak to when you're spoken to, don't share too much, don't brag. Our throat chakra gets blocked. And our throat chakra is meant to be fully expressed. And it's no wonder why we then suppress our anger, we suppress our rage, we suppress our voice, we suppress when people are not being kind to us. We don't know how to then advocate for ourselves. You see where I'm going with this? And this is supposed to be Self-Care Awareness Month, in my opinion. We are supposed to learn how to advocate for ourselves in the clinic room, hospital room, doctor's office, as well as in our relationships, so that we or our children do not get stuck in these relationships where they cannot be okay with the sound of their own voice. And so this starts when they are young. Give them the tools and maybe give yourself permission. It is okay. You can change and shift and be okay. You don't have to get mad at your mom or grandma or aunts who penalized you or yelling at you for screaming and yelling or shaming you or guilting you for feeling that way. You now get to change the tide. You get to change it here on out. So the next time, and you might fumble on this, next time you see your kid, your child acting out, let them. Let them. That's how they learn. Who cares if somebody's watching you in the grocery store? Who cares? Who cares? And you have to train your brain that it is okay for them to scream. Nobody likes to hear crying or screaming baby. Nobody likes it. But it is so good for their nervous system to allow. And now here's the caveat. Here's the caveat, because most people will ask, well, what, so I'm supposed to just let them scream like this all day long? No. This can be in a boundaried, perimetered way where you can say, okay, I'm going to set the timer for 30 seconds. And you can lash out, you can scream, you can throw these balls. I want you to fully express, and I will do it with you. And sometimes my kids get angry because I'm doing it with them. So you want to give them the freedom to just be themselves. They want me to model it, but they don't want me to do it with them. And this can change in your household as the kids get older, but I know that as my daughter is fully finding her own freedom and her own sovereignty, she wants to be able to do it in the whatever way works for her. And sometimes she'll even say, Mama, I need privacy. Cool. That's great. If you are in a household where this will trigger somebody else's nervous system, like elders, some of you live with your parents, you have 3 generations in the household, etc., they might judge you. There's all kinds of things. You can't change the elders' perspective on things. They're, grandparents, etc. Go in the closet. Turn your music up real loud. Put your white noise on. Set a timer for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is going to be a long time in the beginning. Start screaming, start shaking, start moving that energy, which is the third thing that I want to bring up. Movement is the biggest way to regulate your nervous system. And before I even go in deeper into that, there's one more thing I wanted to say about activating your throat chakra, activating your ability to express and emote by screaming, by yelling, by speaking your truth, and allowing your kids to do so. Because what it does is it activates your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is the nerve that goes from your brain, the only one that goes from your brain all the way down to your toes. It is the only one. And what does that mean? That means that it activates your parasympathetic. That means that it activates your rest and digest. It allows you to calm down. Ever noticed when you hum and you feel your voice vibrating? Or if you can kind of do something like this, when we're humming a tune, when we're singing our favorite 90s slow jam, when we are going back to the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or whatever Shah Rukh Khan movie that you watched in the 90s growing up. Okay, it brings us back into a state of, oh, I just did that? Oh yeah, nostalgia. Because we've activated our vagus nerve. It's why singers and music, when we're listening and we're tuning and we're humming, it sends us back into a state of, oh yeah, okay, I got this. Then we forget about who slighted us or what happened the day before, what happened at work, because we're jamming, because it's an instant nervous system regulation. Instant. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about, the third thing that will help us regulate our nervous systems, and the most juiciest thing that you can do with your kids is movement. Movement, so we can shake and shake and shake and shake and shake. And studies have shown this. It is not a lie that when you turn on Shakira and you shake your hips, because we hold the most trauma and emotions and tightness. This is our second chakra, our sacral chakra. If you've ever taken a yoga class, it is responsible for creation, our sexuality, our sensuality, our ability to express, our ability to emote, our ability to be creative. It's why a lot of times, mamas, we are so creative when we are pregnant, especially around the time of the second and third trimester, because we are ready to open up that portal to give birth. Because our second chakra is open. And so for those who have been abused or who hold any sort of tightness in their second chakra, in their hips, if they don't do the stretches that are hip openers, because we hold a lot of that tension and emotion in the parts of our hips, and then it causes us to close and collapse and get quiet and dim our own light. Because maybe something happened. Maybe there was sexual abuse or something like that, or trauma in some way, shape, or form. So what is the best way to move that energy? Is to dance, is to move, is to shake. And shaking is one of the ways to shake the energy and the staleness from all the different parts of your body. It moves our lymphatic system. Our lymphatic system can move the toxins from our body so that our liver can actually process them. Not only that, it actually changes up the chemistry in our body. If we've been sitting down for a really long time, if we've been in the car for a really long time, if our kids have been sitting at their desks for a really long time, they haven't been moving, and you've put them in traditional school, or they have a really long ride back home, and of course they're cranky, of course they're acting up, of course. Do you ever wonder why they have the meltdowns in the car, by the way? Because they're probably been sitting for too long. We're not meant to be sitting for that long. We have to move our energy, stretch our legs. The best way to do that. Why do you think they jump up and down? And then we tell them to stop. We tell them to stop moving. We tell them to stop doing this. No, let them bounce around. Let them run back and forth. Let them dance. The best way to do that, put some tunes on. Have a playlist ready always. My kids are jamming to Bollywood music, and I am living for it. What is that playlist for you? I want to put it in the comments because I would love, love, love to hear it from you. So I wanted to kind of just recap and really go into, give you some three additional tips that I think is going to be so beneficial. Here's the 3 things that I do in front of my kids that might piss a few people off, and it's really non-conventional parenting, and I don't care, but it's worked really well for our family, is Ajit and I, we fight in front of our kids. And now, if you've watched some of our episodes on relationships, and I will link the playlist below so that you can actually get a hold of that. But we fight with love. And we want to be able to model what it looks like to fight respectfully. And we have a whole process around this. For the most part, when I say fight, I mean disagreements, right? And so we have a way where if it is going to escalate, we have a safe word. And I've now taught my children to have a safe word within themselves. It doesn't always work because guess what? They're kids and they're just going to do what they're going to do. And we can try again, but I'm teaching them to not only repair and reconcile, conflict resolution at home, because they are also learning this in school, which by the way, it's amazing. And they have a safe word. So they don't practice it all the time. My older one is starting to because he actually gets it. My younger one she's just not there yet. And that's okay. But Ajit and I have that. And that has worked for us because they are getting a sense of modeling what that looks like, to fight with love, to fight with dignity and respect. And we don't conceal things. We conceal things if it's not age appropriate for them. And that we can chat in another episode about. The other thing the second thing that we do that's completely different, that is contrary to popular belief, is I let them melt down and have public meltdowns wherever we are at. Now, it totally drives my elders in our family when they come to visit crazy. Because they're like, oh my gosh, how can you do that? And then they're trying to shush the kids and they're shushing. Because it aggravates their nervous system. Because their grandparents and their parents did not let them emote fully. Because God forbid somebody would give you the death stare at the grocery store. And by the way, I've gotten a lot of death stares, for sure. Because they're like, why is she screaming? Why can't you hold, why, and I just allow. I allow, because in that moment, I'm also reparenting the little Neeta who wasn't given permission to do so. And if this is so foreign to you and you're like, I don't know if I'm okay with that, fine, start with a minute. I'm not asking you to let them have a full meltdown if your nervous system is not used to it. Maybe you want to practice. Maybe you let them have that meltdown and you time it for 30 seconds and then you celebrate that. Because that's 30 seconds that you allowed your child to express an emo. And then you can take them out of the store or come back later, etc. But I allow that because it is a healthy way for them to express. Now, the last thing that I do that is contrary to popular belief is I apologize to my kids. If I was doing something wrong or if I had slighted them or there was something the other day where I wasn't fully paying attention because I had a deadline and I was trying to do the mom thing where you're trying to help your kid. We're all working at the breakfast table. My son's getting some of his work done. Mama's getting her work done. And he thinks I'm also checking his work. And I just kind of wasn't there because I had to get this thing in. We're trying to multitask. My son is now knowing that, hey, he's like, Mama, you didn't even check it. And he got so upset. And then it was a big thing. And I let him have his feels. And then I said to him, hey, you know what? That was really not cool, because I said I was going to be present for you for this. And so to be able to repair and reconcile with your child is the greatest thing. Because, and I know that saying sorry from a Filipino Indian household, Asian household, tiger parents, nuh-uh. Like, my elders even make fun of me. Well, how are you even doing this? And so, but we get to change that. We get to change that. I say I'm sorry to my children. And I encourage you to have these dialogues with your kids, because it doesn't mean, and here's the thing, I know some of you think, oh, well, if I do that, then they're not gonna learn discipline and they're not gonna learn respect and they're gonna disrespect me. It's actually the opposite. They're gonna respect you more because they know that, hey, my parents are human enough to make a mistake. My parents are human enough to say, you know what, I effed up and it's okay to make mistakes and I'm your parent and I am going to do better. Can you imagine if your parents said that to you? How would you react? How would you actually feel if that happened? Wow. Crazy pants. So I would love to know what you are taking away. Please let us know in the comments what piqued your interest, what opened your heart, what opened your mind. Let us know what you're going to be doing differently in this stage and season of parenting. I know it is busy, busy, busy. You are doing such a great job, mamas, papas, parents. And if you are watching this and I know you are new, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let us know what you loved about this episode. If you're following us on iTunes or Spotify, hit the like button so that you don't miss a beat. And if you haven't already followed us on Instagram, please follow us at The Brave Table or at Neeta Bhushan. Tag us on our stories. Did it change your perception? Did it help you heal in any way? Did you send this to your parents? Let me know. Let me know all of it. And if you can and you haven't already, we would love your 5-star review. You can leave it on iTunes. It lets us know what to do better. And if you've loved it, let us know what you loved so that we can give you a free gift. When you screenshot that review, you can send it to support@globalgrit.co. That is support@globalgrit.co. I will see you next time.